All right, this is lesson 6.5, drawings in 3 dimensions. In your book, it's on page 302. And the first thing we're going to learn is we're going to draw figures like these two here, this pyramid and this prism, and we need to know the parts of it. Basically, when you're drawing in 3 dimensions, you can see that we have our sideways dimension, our up and down dimension, and then we have a depth factor that goes kind of back and towards the side. Okay, and that gives us our 3-dimensional look on a 2-dimensional paper. The parts of the 3-dimensional drawing are, we have this item here in green, right here. This is considered a face. That there is the face of the object. And even though these drawings here have highlighted in green only one of the faces, you can see that the pyramid would have many faces. There's a face that's in the back, there's a face that's on this side here, there's the front face, and then there's actually even the bottom. Okay, so there's a lot of different places that faces appear. I've just highlighted the one green one on this side, and on the prism on the left here, you can see that we have a front face. I've highlighted this side face. There's a back side face, the back, the top, and the bottom. Okay, so basically all of the faces are the outer surfaces of the 3-dimensional object. Then we have what's called vertices. Vertices are any time that multiple lines come together and form a point. That's called a vertex. And those lines make up what's called the edge. So each edge of our face matches up with another edge. So here's an edge, and it comes and meets this edge. And then the vertex would be the point where it meets up with other edges. So having done that, we have now looked at the different pieces of the drawing. However, when the drawing is in the background and it's behind, I've drawn that in these small red lines. Typically, I can't make this drawing tool doesn't allow dashed lines, so typically you'll see them as dashed lines, like that. That means it's a hidden line, and you can't see it from the front. So these red lines here that I've highlighted here, those red lines are actually hidden lines. I just can't draw the dashed line directly with the tool. All right, how do we draw? Well, first of all, look at this paper here, or this dot matrix here that we have. You can see that it kind of forms little diamond shapes, and that's called isometric graph paper. And it allows you to draw sometimes a lot easier on a 3-dimensional drawing. So, for example, we've been asked here to draw a 4x2 base, and you can see right here I went 1, 2, 3, 4 dots down at an angle and 2 across. Okay, and that's that base there. Now behind the base, I know that I'm going to draw the rest of my cube on top of that, the rest of the prism on top of that. And so I made the red lines, which once again could have been dashed lines, because I know these are going to be invisible when I'm done with my drawing. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this, and this. So I've got my bottom drawn right here. That's done. So now I'm going to draw my vertical lines. Now I'm going to do this guy right here. And you can see that I drew the vertical line here, the one in the front here, and the one on the back left. And the one in behind is already a dotted line as an invisible line. So those are drawn. Now let's take a look at drawing the top. I'm going to draw the top, and that's the green top. And since it's visible, it's on the top, there's no dotted lines for that. And when you're all said and done, I've drawn all the pieces. Now, if you have drawn it on paper and you can't erase, you can erase all the hidden lines. And basically that's what this drawing right here is the same drawing as up above, except the hidden lines are now hidden and we no longer have the hidden lines. And so there is our three-dimensional drawing of the 4x2 box. There's a thing in three-dimensional drawing called a vanishing point. What it allows you to give you is perspective on a drawing. So let's say that we have this drawing, and I'm going to try to lasso it here. Here we go. Okay, that's too much. That's not what I wanted, but I wanted that line, that line, that line, that line. I've got it at the front. The front is a square, and at the back here, I have what's called the vanishing point, or point V. And you can see that it's this point right there. What I do is I draw to each of the vertexes, I draw a direct line to that point. And I draw that, and in this diagram I'm going to use a real thin red line. And you can see the thin red lines. Here's one, here's another, here's another. So you can just get the red line itself. There we go. And when you get multiple things, you get a different. But you can see each of these 4 red lines that are off of this V vanishing point are going to the 4 points of the front of my cube. And then I go a certain depth back and follow the edge with a solid black line. And I'm going to do that in a different color here. Let's do that in a green. And there I follow it back. I followed the red line all the way back. And I follow the red line all the way back to a certain depth. And then I said I'm going to draw my back part. And there's the visible back part. And you'll notice that I've made a 3D drawing where the back of my drawing is smaller than the front of my drawing. But we know, because it's 3D, that it's really the same size. But because of this vanishing point and the 3D aspect perspective that we get by drawing it like this, that it's really the same size. It just looks like it's going to vanish into the distance. And once again, I have my hidden edges. When drawing on the red lines, this time I went ahead and filled them in with the black dotted dots, and you can see those along the bottom, and that's the hidden lines. So here's an example. Let's try it. I'm going to do the vanishing lines here in red, and I'm going to go from my vanishing point to each of my vertex points on my original side, the front of my drawing. And I'm going to go from that vanishing point to all of the points on the side. Now I'm going to go draw the back, and I'm going to do that in black. I'm going to go back this far. Let's just go right here. There's the side. Okay. And there's the top. Totally visible. Okay. If I was to draw the dotted line, there would be the back side that I can't see. And there would be the bottom of the back that I can't see. I'm going to go ahead. I've drawn the back, drawn the vanishing lines. Now I'm going to fill in all the visible edges and the hidden edges that I can see. So on the bottom, I can see that line, so it's visible. On this top, I can see that. And on this top, I can see that. But on the bottom edge here, it's invisible. So I fill it in. And then what you do is you erase your perspective lines. So I'll see if I can select them one at a time and delete them. Let's see if the delete key will work. I'm not, the delete key, there we go, we'll move them. Let's do them, move them. And that's what'll happen. Now I've moved them all off to the side. And now let's just move them even further. Let's see if we can lasso all of those. Maybe we can lasso. It won't do the lasso tool. There we go. And if we can get them all lassoed, we can move them. Let's move them out of the way a little bit. And now we're looking at our drawing, and you can see that all of our drawing, it vanishes off to this vanishing point, but we've erased or gotten rid of those drawing tools, the vanishing lines that helped us draw it. And in grand scheme of things, if you can erase the hidden lines too, you'd be better off. And then there's your final drawing. Okay, when you notice that drawing, you'll notice that all your vertical lines in this perspective, I'll draw those with a different color, they're going to be perpendicular or parallel. Sorry, they're going to be parallel to each other. And your original line is still parallel also here. All right, let's say you have two vanishing points and what's called a horizon line. So in this case, I've got a vanishing point V and another vanishing point W, and I've got what this green line in the middle is called the horizon line. So it's called the horizon line just like you would think. If you look off in the distance, you see the horizon, which is where the sky meets the ground, and that's kind of what this is about. So if we follow through with our rules, we're going to redraw all the lines we can see, following our red perspective lines. And we'll notice that it's longer than it's wide. And now if we erase our vanishing points and our perspective lines, we now have a drawing that looks pretty good. This drawing right here is a three-dimensional line that we can tell is longer than it is wide. And even though it's drawn in with a three-dimensional perspective, we know that the front side and the back side are still the same. Here's another example of that three-dimensional drawing. Well, we could do the same thing, but this time instead of the perspective being directly straight at us, this time the perspective is a little bit below the horizon line. So we go ahead and finish drawing this. Let's see, draw that a little poor. That was a little poor drawing there. Let's try that. There we go. Now, how do we want to draw that top? Well, let's take a look. Let's draw some more perspective lines from our vanishing point to there, and from our other vanishing point to there. And now we know how to draw the top. Here is our top. And now, if we wanted to, we could draw the hidden lines too, like this. And then we'd have to draw the vanishing lines like this. There, and the other one to the other vertex on the bottom. And then we could draw in our hidden edges. And then when we delete our vanishing lines, we have a nice 3D drawing. Everybody see that? It looks pretty good. And if we would go ahead and delete the hidden lines, that delete tool got a little carried away there. So let's see if I can freehand that, draw that back in. There we go. And now we have a 3D drawing of our box here. And so when you have two vanishing points, you have to draw multiple vanishing lines to get that perspective. When you have a single vanishing point, you only have to draw to this single vanishing point for those perspective lines. And that's how you draw a 3D dimension. We'll practice some of those 3D drawings before the assignment. So there you are.